Okay, just want to take a look. This is the photo that you posted on Facebook, and I wanted to take a closer look at it and zoom in a little bit. First thing I have to say, you did a wonderful job on his eyes. They just look fabulous. I love the colors that you used. I love that the top half is darker than the bottom half. You remembered to color in the tear ducts. It's an important part of the eye. I can't tell for sure if you colored the waterline, which is this line right above the lashes. Can't tell for sure. It looks like you might have done it. But you did just a fantastic job on those eyes. Great, great going. The issue that was noticed was the hair. The hair has sort of an orange cast to it, where Brad Pitt's actually kind of a blonde colored hair. Um, and it really does look like you overlapped onto the hair with the flesh color. And I know you said you used a brown on it, but that's not what it looks like. It looks like it's colored the same as the skin. Um, the eyebrows, the beard, everything looks like it's all just one color. Looks like you may have put a little tint on his lips, but other than that, everything looks all one color. So I played with it this morning, and I came up with this instead. And I didn't focus in detail on the eyes a whole lot because you did such a wonderful job. I didn't want to spend time on that. But if you look here, I have his hair more blondish compared to the skin, and the beard down here, it's darker. Um, to me, it looks more like whiskers, and whiskers are tough, but it does look more like whiskers to me. And the eyebrows, I had a little bit of an issue with his eyebrows. I'm still not real happy with those. I might have to play with those some more. But I'm going to show you what I did, how I did it. First thing, turn those things off. This was the original photo that was posted on Teach Me to Color. And the first thing that you should always do is duplicate that layer. You should never work on the background, the original photo. And that way, if you mess up, you can just trash whatever you messed up and you can still have your original to start with. And it's called non-destructive photo editing, and that's the way everyone should do it. And it's the way professionals use this system. So first thing is make a copy of your background. Second thing, when you're colorizing, you should always desaturate first. And although this photo looks black and white, and it probably really is, you can't always tell. Sometimes there is a blue photo filter or an orange photo filter that's on the original black and white, and it's so light that you really can't see it with your eye, but it is there, and it makes a big difference because the colors you add on top interact with any color that is already there. So desaturate always. Third thing I always do is check and adjust the levels. On this particular photo, when I tried adjusting the levels, I just wasn't real happy with what was happening. Things were blowing out, and I just didn't like that. So on this particular photo, I didn't make any adjustments. Normally, you do, but this one, it just didn't work out. So, but I still checked them. And then you're ready to color. The first thing you should do when you're coloring is get, ooh, my mouse just clicked 3 times. Get a new layer, change it to soft light. Every color that I add is on its own separate layer, and that way it can be adjusted without affecting anything else. I keep swatches, and it's a crutch for me. I haven't been able to give them up. I love my swatches. And this has been my favorite color for a year now, to start with on my skin. Some people start in other areas, but I always go straight for the skin first. To me, it's the biggest thing and it's the most important thing, so I do it first. Now, my brush is another important aspect. I use as large of a brush as I can use without being too crazy. And I do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, if I use a small brush, it's much easier for me to miss something and leave a gap. If I use a big brush, then I'm more sure to get every bit of it colored. And so I use a big brush, as big as I'm comfortable with that particular photo, and set the hardness all the way down to 0. Another reason for using a big brush is the edges feather out. And the bigger your brush, the better it feathers on the edges. And yes, it causes you to go over, but I would rather go over now and erase it back than to have harsh edges or to miss something. And so I go over the entire face with that big brush. And a way to check and make sure you didn't miss anything, you can change this back to normal, and you can see there's a part, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but there's a spot right there where I was kind of light, and there was another spot. So I'm going to put that back on soft light. And now I'm going to erase it back, and I also use 0% hardness on my eraser and a fairly big eraser. Maybe not quite as big as what I colored with, but fairly big so the edges feather. I'm going to go all around the edges with that. Some places I may have to get a smaller brush with a harder edge, and it just automatically gets a little harder if you have a smaller brush. But then if you need it even harder than that, you can always turn the hardness up. But usually just turning the size down does a good enough job for me for colorizing. And I just want to turn this down real small to get this strip of hair right there. And then I'm going to erase over his eyes. Okay. Now I'm going to add another layer. I think I've got everything colored in for the skin. Change it to soft light. Get my big brush again. And I'm going to pick a color more toward the brown and maybe slightly to the right of where that flesh color was. It almost doesn't matter what you choose. It works because I fade it out so much. It just works. With that, I'm going around the entire perimeter of his face that was in shadow already. You can see it's darker already in the original. And I'm just accentuating that and darkening that edge. And then I'm going to turn that down quite a bit. That's 19%. Just want to add a little bit of a dimension to his face, and might need to erase back here a little bit. Oops. There we go. Alright, and then soft light, new layer, soft light. For his hair, I found this hair swatch that I'm loving, and I think I'm going to use the honey blonde for this one. Actually, I know I am because that's what I used the last time. And my brush is a little too big. I'm going to turn that down. And by the way I'm pulling that menu up is just right clicking and it pulls up your brush menu. If you click out here, it doesn't work. It has to be on the picture. I'm going to turn that, make sure my hardness is at 0, turn the size down a little bit, and color in his hair. And I'm intentionally overlapping the skin just a little bit because I'm going to come back and erase that back with a large brush set to 0. And that's to feather my edges. Large eraser set to 0 hardness. And I'm just allowing the edge of that brush where it feathers out to just overlap that just slightly. As if let me turn that off for a minute. Got a new layer set to soft light. If I used this brush, which is 100% hard, turn this up, I get this harsh overlap line. And then if I use my eraser at 100% hard, I get again this sharp, I fight between, okay, now it's too gray, and then I get my brush, well now it's too harsh, it overlapped. That's why I don't use hard brushes ever. I'm going to delete that layer. I use soft brushes and erasers. Okay, and now that color is not as orange as the skin color was, so there's a definite difference in tone here. Let's see if I can find yours. Where's yours? There it is. If you turn yours on, you see how orange yours looks? That's why it looks like the flesh color overlapped on completely onto the hair, is this kind of orangey. And this one is more of a light brown blonde color. Okay, for the beard, and whiskers are kind of difficult to deal with sometimes, but I saw a tutorial this guy was giving, and these are the colors he was using, and I stole his colors and made my own little swatch here. He used this blue color, and if you want this exact color, it's right here in this box. If you type 8FAABF, you will get that exact blue. Let's see, yeah. Now on a new layer, set to soft light. I'm going to go over his whiskers with this color. And men's beards causes a blue shadow on their face. So I'm going to go over the beard. Erase that back. Let me make sure I set that back down to 0. I'm going to erase that back a little bit. So I go over that beard with blue, and that gives it that whisker shadowy look. And I'm going to turn that down a little bit because it doesn't need to be that blue. And then get a new layer, soft light, and just any brown or blonde will work for this. I think I'll just steal from the swatches up here. I'll just use this color, and I'm going to go over the top of that. And then I'm going to turn that way down. I just want it to be a slightly different color from his skin. And you can go back and forth and turn the opacity up and down until you get it just right. So that was the beard. Um, Compared, zoom in, let's compare. Again, it just looks like the flesh color, you just colored over it, which I also colored over it, but then I added things on top of that to get it to look different from the flesh. Also, your skin tone is a little bit brighter and more orange than mine is. It's perfectly acceptable. I preferred this color. And then the lips, I'm not sure. It looks like you did color the lips slightly pink. Um, so I always go over men's lips. I usually go over them with the flesh color first, and then I add some red on top. And I usually do just use red. You can use a darker red or a pink or whatever, but I usually just use red and turn it down because it kind of blends with my skin tone that I put on in the first place and becomes a different color anyway. I'm not going to do the eyes again because, like I said, you did a fantastic job on the eyes. I'm also not unhappy with his eyebrows just the way they are. I think I'm going to leave those. Um, yeah. So anyway, there's the difference, and I hope it helps you. Again, this is yours, and this was mine. And I can post this picture in the comments as well, so if you want to, you can open it up and look at them side by side. Um, but I hope this helps you, and let me know if you have any other questions.